5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And it's live.
This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Watch and subscribe on YouTube and listen on your podcast platform.
Hello, do not leave your seats. And there's a reason I'm not asking you to leave your seats, is because I clicked the wrong button. There we go. Like Avengers Assemble. I'm not sure who's who. But good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good night, good day, goodbye. Hello, welcome along to the show, the ABR show, Anyone But Ruud. Now, I have to say that I'm not quite as bad as the two below me. And I'm going to say hi to Kate and hi to Craig. You were both there last night.
Indeed, we were.
Were people, I mean, we saw people on the screen, Kate, walking out at what appeared to be 35 minutes into the game. We were a bit confused as to whether that was just an early pee break or an early drink break, or did they actually come back for the second half?
I mean, I don't know about you, Craig, but I thought the ground stayed surprisingly full for a surprising amount of time. Like, I expected a much bigger exodus than there ended up being initially. I think people did come back after half time, but for me, I think it was probably around the 60 odd minutes when it started streaming out. I think people just wanted to see a bit of the second half, see if anything really changed, which we were better, but you could argue Newcastle didn't have to try as hard. The game was over. So nothing really changed the second half. Obviously didn't get any goals, and people did start to stream out really, but the crowd was quiet in part, and it did get quite animated at times through frustration, to be honest, is how it kind of like
I must admit, I was actually celebrating at the end because I went 3-0 in the prediction league.
Yeah, I'd gone 3-1.
No one likes a show off.
I know. And I'm going to say that result saved my week. And Craig, you went 3-1.
Yeah.
Who the hell did you think was going to score that goal?
I thought, the law of averages states that at some point something will go in off someone, and I think last night it was weird because I know Newcastle took their foot off the gas. That was clear. They had more to give, but I think we had more corners, more attacks, more possession, more completed passes than Newcastle. We definitely spent more time near the opposition goal than we had for a long time last night. And if anything, I know the flag went up in the end, but if anything sort of showed the kind of look that we're having at the moment was that effort of Daka's that not only hit one inside post, but hit both inside posts and then came straight back out to their keeper. Whereas, we get a guy who shoots from 50 yards and it comes straight back out to...
Do you think, Kate, though, if that had gone in, do you think the linesman would have gone, do you know what? They've not scored for 800 odd minutes. I'm going to keep me flag down.
Yeah, I mean, you'd like to think so, wouldn't you? I think one of the guys I sit with was like, I think I feel really mixed emotion in knowing that Leicester have broken their duck finally, but it's that Daka's got the goal. It's kind of mixed emotions, but yeah, it just isn't we were better. I think we produced a little bit more in terms of some chances, but it's no way near enough still. It's just not.
Okay, is that, do you think, because, I mean, look, against Man City, we drew the second half. Against Newcastle, we drew the second half. That's not because we're getting better in the second half. That's because they're taking the foot off the gas because they know they only need to stay in second gear.
Yeah, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. It's not the same game second half, so it's not like we acclimatized to them or we managed to match them man for man. It's just a completely different game coming into the second half, 3 down. Newcastle just really have a job of seeing it out, and that's all they had to do. And the same with Man City. It just, I don't know what happens in the week in training. For twice on the trot now, is it the first 2 minutes and you would go down, like the concentration and attention is so low.
Just getting my notes out the filing cabinet.
It's it's really quite shocking, and there's an unprofessionalism about it, I think, now, really.
I've got to say, Craig, it was a double celebration. Before the game, I was having
the microphone's a bit funny, Chris.
Is it? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
I can hear you now. Yeah, it went fuzzy for a minute.
Story of my life. I'm a little bit of a fuzzy guy, me. Tell me if it goes. But not only did I get the 3-0 score correct, but I also got how many minutes we would go without a goal by the end of the game, which was 834. And I hit that, smashed that straight on. So I'm just on the winning streak. But yeah, look, it's getting about 3 of the last 8 games we've conceded within the first 2 minutes, Craig.
Yeah. You don't know what it is because we started on the front foot. I think Vardy had that shot. We got a corner. And then first attack and the ball's in the back of the net. And again, I think it shows up that lack of support that the defence gets. I mean, there was an overlap round James Justin, but nobody read it.
No,
nobody thought, all right, there's going to be an overlap. One of our 3 centre halves needs to come out and block that, or a midfielder coming back and seeing that. Nobody takes responsibility, and that's the biggest thing for me. They all look round and shrug their shoulders, but I don't know. People will blame JJ, and I know he didn't have a great game, but there's not a lot he can do there. Where he's faced up the guy, I think it was Barnes actually. He's faced him up. He's stopped him coming inside, which he loves to do. But you've got a guy who's running 50 yards to make the overlap and nobody bothering to actually, go anywhere near him. It was a great cross and he finished it at the back post well, but preventable.
I feel sorry for Wayne because that was I think it was the first game he's been to all season and he had the chance of a free ticket. Well, I shouldn't feel sorry for him because he should have known what to expect, shouldn't he? Really, but look, it's just Kate, you and me, we write alternate weeks for the BBC. Can I have a slash, please? Thank you.
You don't need to ask. You're a grown man.
It was my turn this week. I am running out of things to talk about. I think 2 weeks ago just said eat, sleep, repeat. I mean, that could have been my report. And I put one out there and it hurt me so much because I had to do it reasonably straight after the game because they wanted it quite early this morning and I was out this morning. And they have this week, they've actually printed it in its entirety, which is a surprise. They normally like to edit it. But it is hard, isn't it? It literally, we are writing the same thing week in, week out. And I'm getting to the point now where I can't blame blame Ruud anymore. I'm having to think it's going to be down to Top soon.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose you could argue that in any event, really, when you've got bad eggs in the squad or in the management stuff, it ultimately the responsibility is with the owner / main man, and that's the same in any business, really. I just feel that I didn't like to believe that the culture was bad, as bad as you've heard and read. I thought maybe there's blips, maybe there's certain characters that hopefully have left. but it seems to me an inherent cultural issue, and I don't know where that's coming from. I feel like it's in the player ranks. I feel like it's in the footballing side of things rather than the club as a whole, because the owners are very hardworking people, the board are very hardworking people. You know, Susan Whelan's one of the most renowned businesswomen in the UK. She hasn't got there other than through meritocracy, because that's how it works. So these people are very hardworking and know what they're about and know what they have to do on a continual basis. But I don't feel it's the same in the footballing side of things. And, you know, there has been a change of that feeling since we went to Seagrave. And I don't know whether it's just not fit for purpose for the level of football that it's at the moment, because you've not got the players that respect it properly and use it for what it is in terms of a facility to better yourself and better the club. It's more like being treated like a hotel, like a spa complex, a place to relax and chill out, because that's the aura it gives when you go.
I'm surprised you haven't actually signed Gareth Bale, because there's a golf course there.
Yeah. So there's lots going into it, but I don't know what Craig feels, but I'm not a big believer in that the players have down tools, and I hate that phrase, because these are professional athletes. They will be more disappointed.
Will they?
Yeah, I think they will. You don't want this.
I mean, some of them I'll grant you, but if I was on 100, it's the joy of work. If you work for yourself and you have a bad week, then you're in trouble. And if you're working, and I worked in sales, so I knew if I had a bad week, not because I couldn't have been bothered, but I knew whatever sort of week I had, I'd still have the same pay at the end. And Craig, do you remember a while ago, I actually you and me did a programme on Seagrave, and I said, is it the biggest white elephant in the football world?
Yeah, I do remember that. And I disagreed with you, because that's what I do.
You do. And that's why I ask you, and I wouldn't want you to agree with me. As long as you admit you're wrong.
I mean, going back to Kate's point there, I think there's two parts to it. I think there is a massive lack of confidence, and I don't care what player you are. If you play without confidence, then one, you don't want the ball, and two, when you get the ball, you want to get rid of it as quickly as possible. But the flip side of that is I don't think they're helping each other, as I alluded to earlier. You know, people seeing overlapping runs and covering for people. I think it looks like 11 individuals to me. It does not look in any way, shape or form a team, because a team will be greater than the sum of its parts. And we managed to do the opposite of that, to be honest, because we have got some good players, but they're bereft of confidence. And I think down tools is too harsh, because I think it does hurt. It's got to hurt, but I think they could do more. Some of those players could do more. I think that's.
I've just seen your picture on the thing.
I was going to say, are you tempted? I saw that in the fan store. Are you tempted to get a packet?
No, because they leak.
Yeah.
With these special Ruud van Nistelrooy special edition, you guaranteed that you won't score. Like I say, I don't waste my afternoon.
You really don't. You're wasted in this game, I tell you.
Look, I'm trying to think.
Imagine that on catchphrase.
Yeah. Sorry. What was I going to say then? I don't know who these good players are, because I haven't seen them for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and even weeks. But, when you look, and a couple of things Jamie Carragher has said, and one of those is this is a club that was in the Premier League only one season ago. We're not a Luton. We're not an Ipswich. We know what to expect when we come up, and we still don't do it. But look, it's going to be, again, Jamie Carragher said that, I don't think I've got it up here. I think it's not worked. No, it hasn't. But Jamie Carragher has said that we'll sack, once we are relegated. But look, we're talking managers. And, okay, let's just 11 managers we've had since King Power have taken over. The first one, in fairness, they didn't appoint, but they were there or thereabouts, and they were certainly there when they sacked him. But we've had 11 managers. We have had a new manager every 490 days. That's 1.34 years we replace the manager, or 16.09 months. Like I say, don't waste my time at all. All right, look, 10 of those we sacked. One of them, we lost and he walked out. Watford are 22. So we're not quite up to the Watford stage. But Chelsea, who we know sack a manager even in the win something, have got through 14. So we're not far off that. That is not when you look at that, in 15 years, we've had 11 managers. That is not what you expect a good, well-run club to be doing, is it? One or two mistakes, I get. Every club, you sign somebody and they're not as good as you were. But look at that.
How many of those would you say were mistakes, Chris?
Mistakes?
And I don't mean in hindsight. I mean at the time.
Were mistakes, or there was a mistake to sack them? And we'll come on to that in a minute, because I don't think there's many mistakes in there. But then what are we doing to a manager when we take them on? Sven-Göran Eriksson, it had a year.
Yeah.
I don't think there's many of those managers. Well, I'm going to say this now. None of those managers were as bad as Ruud is at the moment, and yet, apart from one, they all got sacked and the other guy walked.
But this is the difficulty, isn't it? It's very easy for all of us to sit back and say how easy it is to run a football club. But, through a run of bad results, do you stick with them and not have so many manager changes? Or do you get rid of them and try and make something of the issue and bring someone else in who you think will be able to turn things around? It's, if you haven't got the best players, then it comes down to the manager. I'm not sure that with some of the squads we've had, the top managers would be able to do anything with them. So you are working with what you've got, and that means you're an elite manager. And we've got good managers there. We've not had elite managers. And when we did have what you could possibly call an elite manager in Rodgers at the time, we hounded him out as well. We didn't give him any time. We gave him a bit of time and it wasn't looking good. I still think we'd have had a better chance of staying up than under Dean Smith. Enzo walked. Ranieri, we talk about being ruthless, and then when we're ruthless, we get criticised for it. It's an impossible job, to be honest. And some of those, I think Claude Puel probably should have had a bit longer. He was the one who was changing the philosophy of the football and the football that we played and set it up for Brendan to take over. But football fans want instant success. Gone are the days where a manager gets 2 years to put his own players in and his squad. You have to come in and work with what you've got, and if you can't, you'll be moved on.
All right, in that same period, Kate, Man United. Well, no, let's go to Liverpool. Liverpool have had 5 managers in that period of time. Even Man United have only had 8. All right, in fairness to Man United, the early majority, a lot of it was Sir Alec. Arsenal have had 3 managers. There is something to be said. The owners at Arsenal have not got rid of their manager. All right, we as fans are shouting for a manager to go. Do you think Top is listening to that too much? Then maybe.
That's what I mean. He's damned if he does and he's damned if he doesn't. You hold on to someone for too long, you get absolutely slaughtered. Like you could argue Brendan was held on for too long in the end. And then you get rid of somebody too quickly. You say, well, why did you sack Cooper? Like you genuinely can't win. If you have the magic pill, we'd all take it, but you don't. The difference with these upper level clubs, with Arsenal and Liverpool, is that they are very, very well established, and they have to have an absolute horror of a season to drop out of the Champions League places. I mean, Man United have had continual horror seasons, and they are in complete disarray. Just they spent 90 million quid in the last decade on sacking manager contracts. 90 million quid, and they're making 200 people redundant who are probably on really low wages. It doesn't represent the state of a club. What it does represent is that it's a very, very difficult game and industry to manage is Premier League football. I think you can probably drop Dean Smith out of that, to be honest, because Dean Smith was always a temporary job, and he wasn't a manager as such in terms of what we hired for a long-term project. And Nigel Pearson, we know what happened there. It was a cultural issue with his son. So, it wasn't through that. That was another thing that was nothing to do with the owners. So you could put it under the microscope.
Nigel Pearson, could the owners have done a bit more to try and keep him?
What that son did at that time was deemed unforgivable. And that's the culture, that's the mark, and that's the line that
I'm not,
But I think, like Craig just said there with Puel, that he could have been given a bit longer. I personally think Puel would have. I was at the West Ham game the night Vishai died, and I personally think Paul was going to be sacked within the next 24 hours, and I think Vishai dying saved his job.
So how many of those, Kate, before I come on to you in a second, Craig, how many of those managers there, forgetting Ruud, because obviously we're going to come on to that in a second, but of those 10 then, how many do you think deserve to be sacked?
Well, it's with hindsight, I guess, isn't it? Ranieri, sadly so. Pearson, sadly so. Sven, you could have argued, was a bit trigger happy. Brendan, sadly so. It was a glorious appointment that just went really sour. I would have liked to have given Cooper a longer. So probably 3 definites there. Mm-hmm. But like I say, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Yeah. Yes.
With Cooper, no one could see a way out because it looked in disarray on the pitch. It looked like there wasn't really a manager at the helm at all. I mean, we have that now, but in a different way. We don't feel there's a manager at the helm. But with Cooper, I was never Cooper out. I wasn't Cooper in. I was just quite indifferent about it.
Before we come on to your choices, if we were to get rid of Ruud, Craig, Van Nistelrooy, we're sat in the table at 19th position out of 20 with just 17 points. Let's compare that to where the other managers were when they got sacked. And I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but I'll read through this anyway. Yep. So Paulo Sousa, we were in 24th place when he was sacked. So you could say, yeah, that was deserved. He had a win rate of 33%. Sven-Göran Eriksson was sacked when we were actually in 13th place with 43%. I mean, we laugh at other clubs when they do that. And there we are getting rid of an ex-England manager because we were sat mid-table. Nigel Pearson, we know that wasn't necessarily football related, but he'd done the great escape and he got us up to 14th, 45% win record. Claudio Ranieri, we were sat in 17th, so just one place outside when he was sacked, 44% win rate. Craig Shakespeare, we were sat in 18th when he was sacked, 42%. Claude Puel sat in 12th. And I know the football wasn't the most exciting, but when you look at some of the players, as I did the other day with Dave, that was brought in under Claude Puel, you're thinking, and I know hindsight, as Kate said, is a wonderful thing, we were sat in 12th and he was sacked. Brendan Rodgers, we were 19th when he 19th when he went. Dean Smith, it was only short term. You could argue that we were sat in 18th. We finished. Enzo, of course, walked. Steve Cooper, we were sat in 15th. How we would take that now? How we would absolutely take that now in 10 points. And Ruud van Nistelrooy, he's got a win percentage of 15%. He's not, unfortunately, yet been sacked. And we're sat, like I say, 19th with 17 points. When you look at what King Power and how they were sacking managers before, how the hell is Ruud van Nistelrooy still in the job?
Because I don't know who you would replace him with that would get anything different, to be honest. I think Brighton's been on the wall for a few weeks, in realistic terms. And, I'm surprised his win ratio is that high, to be only, 5% lower than Steve Cooper.
I think they're include the cup game and what have you.
Right. I mean, Steve Cooper, let's not forget, he has to take some of this blame. When Ranieri won the league, everybody was very, very quick to say it's Nigel Pearson's team. This isn't Ruud van Nistelrooy's team. This is Steve Cooper's team. Steve Cooper brought in a lot of that deadwood. He brought Ayew. He brought D. Cordova-Reid. He wanted these players. And I think he bought Skip. So...
he got everybody apart from Koulibaly, didn't he?
Yeah. So you can't say you can't have it one way and then not have it the other way. So I think what Ruud has done here is found himself in an impossible situation where he doesn't really want half of this team that he's got. You can't just throw all the kids in. It was great to see Monga yesterday for 15 minutes, who looked really good, to be fair. It was great that Pereira was on again, who looked the best player on the pitch. Again, on the two, yeah. I mean, if we'd have had him for a few weeks, who knows? There's a lot of ifs and buts here. But the interview yesterday, it looked like Van Nistelrooy was a guy at the end of his tether who, if given the opportunity, would throw half of that team out himself. And that's where it becomes difficult. You're judging people managing someone else's squad.
But then that's how it happens, isn't it?
It is how it happens, and I'm not, and I'm as disappointed as anyone, to be honest, because I thought he would have been able to get more out of this team.
Okay, if we're looking at Ruud then and saying that he's stuck with the players that Cooper had, there's a lot of players, Edouard, Skip, that aren't getting the time. Akoli, Koulibaly, who came in under his watch as a right back, we haven't got a right back, and he's still not starting any bloody games. Ricardo, this is the second time that Alan has put him in as my man of the match for LTID, and that's the second time he's only actually been on the pitch for 15 minutes, and he's outplayed everybody else that was on for 90. Why didn't he start yesterday? You're bringing them on, and it's not just the players; it's his whole tactic. Did El Khanous deserve to come off yesterday? Yes, you can only work with the tools you've got, and let's be honest, we've got some bloody bad tools in that box. But if the tools aren't working, try different tools. If your screwdriver isn't screwing properly, get a bloody hammer out and hammer it in.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing for me with Ruud is that he's taken a team, and I completely agree with Craig, it's not his team. He's not had a summer. I find it really difficult to judge and therefore sack managers if they've never had at least one summer window, because January is just a complete waste, to be honest. But the summer, if you've not been given a summer, it's very difficult to make your mark with your existing squad, where you just have 6 weeks of just focusing and strategy and practicing what the manager wants you to do, and then also having the opportunity to buy some players. But with Ruud, for me, and what frustrates me the most is that he has taken a team that was scoring in all but one games under Cooper, and we haven't scored since the bubonic plague. And it's absolutely ridiculous. I don't know how that has happened. If you can't just continue as you are with the group because you are not forceful enough with your philosophy, or you want to wait till summer when you've got the right personnel, for me, the change has been unbelievable in turning a team that could score, and we were competing. It wasn't pretty at times, and it was lacking in a lot of areas, don't get me wrong, but he's taken away any kind of good points that we had in those 10 games with Cooper, and he's had now 3 more games than Cooper and he's still 3 points off the tally that Cooper got. And it's quite a phenomenal downturn. It's not just a decline. This has gone off a cliff with Ruud, and I just wonder early doors if he felt out of his depth, if he was totally overwhelmed. I don't know, but it seems to me a guy that is just completely at a loss as what to do.
You don't expect, Craig, do you? If you've got a team that's performing averagely, then you don't expect a manager to come in and make that team worse, like Kate said, which is what he has done. You know, we've got, I mean, I was putting up today in social media, we have been relegated from the top tier the most times, equal with Birmingham City. We are going to hold that trophy now on our own after this season. We have not scored for 834 minutes. That is not just a Premier League record, that is a top flight record. And like Kate said, we were scoring under Cooper. Is it not as a manager? Do you not? No, should not be looking at him. We're going like, fuck, I've cocked this up, because all he's doing is demoralising everybody. There's a toxic atmosphere with the fans. All that because of Ruud. Now, whoever comes in, and whether it's a short-term one or whatever, he might not. Well, he won't save us. Let's be honest with you. Whoever comes in, but he might just create a bit of an atmosphere. He might win 1 or 2 games.
He might not. I mean, we did the same, with Rodgers. And don't bring the fans into it, because the fans will manage to create a toxic atmosphere in a meadow of buttercups or whatever. Because that's the group of fans that we've got at the moment. Not all the fans, but the vocal minority. But there's something just not right, and I agree with Kate. It's the fact that you've got enough there to be competitive in games, and we're not competitive, and that's
combative
the thing
as well.
Exactly. It's the very least that we expect. Every fan would run, through a brick wall if they could get on the pitch and play for pull that shirt on, and that's the disappointing bit. You go down fighting, don't you? And there's no fight here, and that's the problem. And that's about characters. When you're bringing in players who don't have character, characterful players have taken us a long way. Martin O'Neill had a squad full of characters, not great players, characters. We won the league with characters, not great players. You've got to accept where you are and understand that character will give you a certain amount of success. And this, we've managed to pull together a squad with very little character in it, sadly, and to not change things. That's the bit that you don't understand. To just see the same people played every week, and then you see people come off the bench and make a difference. Mavididi always, makes a difference. He's always at least trying something, and I think that's the frustrating thing. I don't think you can knock people for trying. If they're trying to go forward, they're trying to make something happen. Does that happen? Fair enough. At least they're trying. It's when that safety sort of kicks in all the time that our first thought is backwards. It's just. I don't. Going back to the question. Sorry, Chris. I don't know who would. I can understand, and I saw somebody put this earlier. I could understand if he walks and then Andy King gets it till the end of the season. But I don't think bringing someone else from outside in is going to offer much, to be honest.
No, but my thought was we had 2 weeks with the international break when they could have done.
Yeah.
And brought somebody in that could look, and that we did this with Rodgers. Rodgers came in sort of March time, I think it was, for end of February, and he had 15 odd games, whatever it was, to look at the squad before the window and go, this is who I want. This player is shit, get rid of him. This player is good. Rather than come in, because what do you learn from meaningless friendlies against Kettering Town and Burton Albion?
I don't think you're going to get a manager that you want to take you into the next season come in this situation for 10 games. I know you'll say that we did with Rodgers, whatever, but I can't see, that we're in a lot worse.
You're giving them enough money. Let's be honest with you. I mean,
is that what you want? Honestly, is that what you want? You think? And I don't mean you, and I know you're just putting questions out there. So, But just to throw some money, as much money as you want, at someone that you don't really want as a manager.
No. What I'm saying though is that the manager that we get in for these 10 games, should be the manager that we keep for next season, so that he's had that time to have.
I get what you're saying, but who are you
I don't know. They had 2
You're not
weeks.
going to lure someone out of a job for 10 games to have a relegation on their books.
If you're giving them enough money, why do Watford manage to get 22 managers in 15 years with their reputation? Because they paid them the money.
Pearson said, what? I don't get the point in likening us to saying we should do what Watford have done.
No. What I'm saying, you're saying nobody would come here because
nobody of any worth that you want as the manager for the next 3 seasons.
I've not got the, and I'm sorry, Kate, I will bring you back in a minute. I've not got the scouting network that Leicester City have got. So I don't know who's out there, who's available, who they're looking at. They're not looking at anybody now. There is something deeply wrong.
I would imagine that they are.
Sorry, Craig, let me just finish. What I'm saying is that I know what you're saying, who would come and have a relegation on their CV. Who would go to Watford? They go to Watford knowing they'll probably get the sack, although they're not quite as bad at the moment. But they know because they're being offered a lot of package. Nigel Pearson was doing a podcast with Sam Allardyce, and it wasn't his exact words, but he said, I went knowing that it might not be a long-term job, but I was going to get paid.
So what are you saying? You just want us to sign some money merchants?
No. What I'm saying is
you want us to pay a lot of money for a load of tripe to sack him really quickly and not get a project underway.
What I'm saying is that we need, and we're going to come on to managers who might fill that role, but I don't know. I
don't think any of those Watford managers were in the middle of a successful season, were successful managers who they then managed to get in. I bet we couldn't name.
No, I agree. I agree 100%.
So you're not going to get a good manager.
Well, they had Pearson, they had Ranieri, both sacked in the same season. They did get reasonable managers. No, I'm not saying I don't know who that manager will be, but what I'm saying is they had 2 weeks to finalise it, and even they should have even been looking before that, because they should be looking at this and going, "Fuck, we hadn't scored in 7 games when we came up to the international break, or 6 games. Maybe we should have somebody in mind." That's all I'm saying. That if they brought somebody in now, he will learn more from the remaining 9 games than he will from a few meaningless pre-season friendlies. But I want to move on because I'm conscious of the time, and that way I get to leave the argument on top.
You don't get the final word, bloody hell.
I know there's a woman in. I'm never going to get the final word, am I?
The host's prerogative.
Talking of women, I'm going to go to Kate first. First of all, yes or no? Do you want Ruud van Nistelrooy to be with us next season? Is he the manager to bring us up and keep us up? Kate, yes or no?
No.
I
don't want him in the next game. I don't want him in the next game, let alone the next season.
Well, exactly. But Craig, yes or no?
No.
See, that fooled me because I thought he was a Ruud in person last time we spoke.
As I say, I won't labour the point. I'm not going to labour the point, but I do feel a little bit sorry for the fact that he's working with a load of dross.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
But
I just say
he could have done more.
He had my utmost sympathy with that. I do know how he feels.
Wow. Right, I'm off, Kate. I'll see you another time. Yeah, bye.
Hey, you opened the door there. You opened the door and you didn't expect me to.
I would have done exactly the same, Chris.
You would have done, and you know it. Kate, right? So, the next question that I then asked you last week was then to get ready for this week, like homework. But who would be the manager that you would want to come in that you think could grow into that manager to bring us back up? Which I don't think we will do because of the PSR and EFL's management plans and possible embargoes, etc. But who could that manager be? And this is the one you picked. No, you wouldn't. That was the one you picked. Minister Liam Rossiter.
Right, I've made some notes on this. Craig, I'm pitching to you. You got to pretend that you're Alan Sugar, and I'm pitching you my idea, like a Dragon's Den or something like that. So, Liam's only 40. He's younger than me, which is quite sad.
He doesn't
really.
look it though.
So yeah, he's obviously had some really good management experience with Hull. He got them to within an inch of the playoffs out of absolutely nowhere. He plays quite high press, high possession style football, which I think we were recruiting for with Enzo, and we've kind of tailored our players and personnel to do that. He's got really good experience of working with youth. I think he's turned some players around, like Liam Delap when he joined Hull, players like that. And when he's joined the setup now at Strasbourg, he's worked with a lot of young players, and they're currently sitting fourth in Ligue 1. He seems to be able to play different formations, which I feel like we've waited so many years for someone to have a plan B, to use it regularly, to interchange it within a match. So he's often going from 3-4-2-1, 4-3-3, 4-4-1-1. That's kind of the three that he flips in between, which I think again could really benefit us depending on the opposition, particularly if we're trying to be positive here and we do come back to the Premier League fairly quickly. His system relies on a ball playing goalkeeper, which even if Mads goes in the summer, I think we have that under Jakob, and we'll probably re-sign another keeper. He plays quick transition on the counter attack as well, which I think again could suit us. We do not see at all our pace utilised as it is at the moment. We've got so much pace in that team. I was thinking that last night, and I don't know if you remember, Craig, there was a moment where Daka could have dinked it past the fullback and ran into a load of space, and he ran 30 yards, stopped, and turned back.
Yeah.
He
probably got lost. He probably wasn't used to being that far up.
So there's a real opportunity to galvanise some of that confidence, like Craig spoke about earlier, to turn these players into players that we know they can be because they have been before. The only negatives I've got is that he's in Ligue 1 top 4, pushing at the Champions League spaces. So is it even a realistic proposition right now? But you could say he would be quite tempted by a club like Leicester, who is still a big club. It's still an amazing proposition. We've got an awful lot going for us. And as Enzo says, we've got the best people in football within the club in terms of working with them. Interestingly, out of the top 6 in Ligue 1, he has got the lowest goals scored by quite a bit. So that could be something up for discussion as well. And then what was my final point? I think that was it. That's kind of the reasons why I would like him. And I think I like a young manager. Obviously, Ruud's not old either. But I like a young manager. I think it could really work well with some of the youngsters that we've got and really start, getting Seagrave to pump out the product that we know it's supposed to be doing.
Would you say, Kate, question I've got from there, you said, like, it's a very good point with Strasbourg, they're doing well. If they get to the Champions League, obviously you don't know how well they might do. Could be tempted with Leicester. Would you describe this as a sleeping giant?
Us as a sleeping giant? Yeah, I think it's a giant that's been given some Rohypnol, to be honest. Because we're not sleeping. We've been there. We've just had a really bad spell, and I still think it's a draw. I know it feels really, really down at the minute and negative, and people are wondering what's going on behind the scenes. But from outside looking in, it's something that I think a young, ambitious manager might just lick his lips at.
Craig, give us your thoughts on Kate's choice, because were you half thinking of this person as well?
I mentioned him last week. I think Kate had switched off by then because she wanted to go.
No. I'd obviously not totally switched off because I remembered.
Yeah. No, I think it would be an interesting choice. At this stage, everything's a gamble, and that's the problem, isn't it? Unless you go for somebody well established, it is a gamble. But he's probably one of the better gambles. I've liked what I've seen and heard of him. I liked him when he was at Hull. I thought he got badly treated at Hull, to be honest. The only thing I've seen negatives is the fact that, as you alluded to there, Kate, a lack of goals and a lack of desire to go and turn draws into wins. I think he's a little bit of defensively minded, and if he's on the fence,
he has the form guy. He's won the last 5.
Yeah, I'm going to say he's doing
that's
a
kind
great
of
job.
common up there with those guys because the Ligue 1 is a bit top heavy, isn't it?
It is. But to go there and fair play, for saying I'm going to go abroad, I'm going to try a new experience. Well played, and to have, because he wouldn't have gone there with a lot of respect, to be honest. In the nicest
No, and he
possible
replaced
sense.
Vieira, which is
Yeah.
quite difficult. A legend in France.
Yeah.
To be replaced by an English kid is difficult, I would think.
So I think if you're looking at a young potential up and coming manager, he's a very decent choice, I would think. And we are a big draw. That's why Maresca came. He saw it as an opportunity. Obviously, we're not as big a draw as Chelsea, but the whole infrastructure is there. And still these people always say, what great people to work for. There's just something not right. And I think that's another thing Carragher said last night. There's just something not right. But no, a very decent choice, I think.
I've got to say, I'd forgotten this. He actually took Hull City to the FA Cup final.
Oh, of course, yeah.
All right, he lost to Arsenal, but look, just getting to the final is no mean feat.
Speaks very well as well. Very sort of educated and thoughtful about what he wants his players to achieve.
His dad was always like that, wasn't he? His dad had a lot to do behind the scenes with like the Kick It Out campaign and stuff like that. Like his dad's very articulate and considered, and he obviously has inherited that really.
Yeah. I mean, he also won the Football League trophy in 2002-03 as a manager with Bristol City. I'm just looking at his record here. Interim manager at Derby County, only for 12 games, but his win percentage was over 58%. At Hull City, 78 games, won 27, more than he lost, which was 23, just short of 35% win ratio. Strasbourg, 31 games, a 48% win record. So overall, he's got a win percentage of 40.5. It's not bad, is it, Kate?
No, it's not bad at all. To be able to do it because the Championship is such a long, hard season, and then to go over to Ligue 1, which must be night and day, the style of football, how it all works. So to be able to adapt different language as well, it brings out a different kind of manager. Like we see that with Ruud, we've said obviously things about Ruud, but I find him a gentleman. He's probably a really nice person to work with from a coach perspective. He's just not very good at managing, but I bet he's taught Vardy a thing or two, or he's put some of his experience out there. It's different when you get a foreign coach, and I think Liam being a foreign coach in France, it just brings an added string to your bow, really.
What I like about him, and I would not be upset at all if it was Liam, is the fact that he has managed in the Championship. He knows the Championship. He was very unlucky not to get. I mean, I'm just reading here. After a 7th place finish for Hull City, caused the team to narrowly miss out on the playoffs. Rossini was sacked. Hull City owner Akun Elekali, said that Rossini had been sacked over a difference on football philosophy between the two, with the owner wanting attacking football and Rossini unable to offer that as a manager. That's a little bit damning, is it? That he's not, But then again, does that not say more about the manager not letting about the owner not letting the manager get on with it?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard when you have an interfering owner, I think. It's something Top would never do, but then sometimes, like now, you think, is it this the perfect time to be a bit more interrupting of the football stuff because it's not going very well? But I know that Top's always respected the boundaries between I run the business and you run the football, and it's obviously very important. I think that's probably what makes them really nice to work with, is that the autonomy that they give. So yeah, it's unfortunate that, I mean, I don't mean to sound disrespectful, but what he did for Hull, it was Hull, and to get them to the FA Cup final, to get them on I think they did a late run that ended up just missing out on the playoffs. It's a real conquest to be able to do that. He's not got loads of resources at his disposal. He's not got an endless supply of young talent and players coming through, or an endless transfer budget. It's based on raw grassroots football and being able to do what you can with a club that's really struggled for the past decade since they left the Premier League. So bring a bit of, goodness for the fans there and a bit of positive football.
I'm still smiling. Sorry, I'm laughing not at you, but I'm still thinking of who Craig's bringing up. But sorry, Craig. Before we get to Craig, Tom couldn't be here tonight, but he wanted to be part of it. So Tom, who does the watch-alongs with me, this is who he wants for. It's like one of those award ceremonies. He can't be
here to collect the award.
Yes, exactly. But he's here to tell us who he wants.
Guys, I'm sorry I can't be a part of the show tonight, but it was such an interesting topic that I wanted to be involved. So I thought I'd send in my thoughts and allow you to rip them to shreds, which is the ideal position to be in as a Leicester City fan, because we've all got passion, we all have different ideas, right? So, when it comes to an idea for a new Leicester City manager, I have one thing I'm thinking about first, and that is beyond tactics, beyond anything like that, the culture of our football club right now is hideous. It's awful. To see players going out there, just going through the motions and knowing once the season is done that they can walk away completely scot-free and get a new job somewhere else. It's difficult because we are used to the opposite as Leicester City fans when we have succeeded so well at bringing in such a positive culture of self-love and self-progression, and we won a Premier League off it. It didn't matter what anyone else thought. We were just so good at our culture back then. And to see where we are now is such a frigging departure. We're just as bad as Manchester United, who've had a bad culture for years. So, my decision, with that being said, about who I'd like as next manager is revolutionary. Because I wouldn't want one. I'd want two. For the first time since the mid-90s in the Premier League, I would want two managers like Roy Evans and Gerard Houllier, except this time I would want Andy King and Nigel Pearson. The reason I say this is simple. We're not sure on Nigel's health, of course, and we all send him all the best. He's Leicester's, in my opinion, greatest manager. I'm sure that will cause some problems as well, me saying it. But he's one of the greatest managers at Leicester, at least we can all agree at that. Andy King has worked with him at Bristol City, has worked with him at Leicester as a player. He understands the Pearson way of doing things. And the thing is, right now, when we're in a toxic culture of a football club, that needs to be the first priority. Irrelevant to tactics, irrelevant to anything else, we need to wield out all the bad people. Nigel Pearson would do that. That is the man he is. And the reason we know is because he's done it before. So for me, I would say this is the great opportunity for the trilogy. And while nostalgia is a hell of a drug, Everton are doing pretty well with Moyes right now. I think that would give us a natural lift to have Nigel back, and it will get us as a fan base in the right direction, and to almost create our own coach out of it, when we could gamble on someone who has got the same level of experience but not that level of Leicester City love, I feel would be daft and naive. I think we are now in that position where we need to hunker down and just really work on the culture. And long term, because there's a long-term vision for this, it will be Andy takes over and Nigel moves upstairs. Because all due respect to our owners, who I love to death, and I'm sure all of us do really, despite all the anxiety and tension that has been there recently, our great successes have come from strong managers, not from strong ownership. So if the ownership isn't willing or able to be strong, but is willing to put their wallet on the table and pay for everything, get the right manager in. Get the guy you can trust in to lead that image of what you want as a football club. That man is Nigel Pearson, and that man is also going to be Andy King.
Guys, wow. Okay. We've done it before. We've had two before, Craig. I've written down Mickey Adams. Who was the guy that was with him? I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't either. I'm going to say that if we can't remember, it wasn't necessarily a 50-50 split.
He wasn't, he wasn't very good. I'm going to say, oh my God, this is going to drive me mad. Dave Bassett. That was it.
Oh God, yeah. Oh God.
Jesus.
How can we forget Dave Bassett? But Dave Bassett came in with Mickey Adams as his number 2, knowing that Mickey Adams at some point would take over.
Didn't he go upstairs then, Dave Bassett? He went upstairs then, didn't he?
He did. He
I think
did.
so,
He went
yeah.
upstairs. And was never seen again. We don't know.
I mentioned.
He just went to the toilet. He didn't go anywhere of use.
No, I know. He went out through the window.
I did mention, it wouldn't surprise me, if Ruud walks, that Andy King gets it for the end of to the end of the season, and even if it's to the end of the season, bringing Nigel in to help him along as well isn't a bad thing. Whether that's a longer term strategy, I don't know, but it's well argued and well very erudite, and yeah,
Okay,
an
your
interesting
thoughts
option
on a double, Sutton sweep sort of.
Sutton sweep, I love that.
It's the granddad coming out in me.
Love that. It's a romanticising idea that I do love, and I definitely think the personality of Nigel, it never goes. It's never unsuccessful. Hardball, demanding, disciplined, having standards, setting the culture, setting the tone. I think a lot of people may call it old-fashioned, but for me, it's never been more current and more needed. And we've had, Craig uses the example of Manchester United. Manchester United have really, really had a power struggle. It's what it's become. It's become a power struggle because you haven't got the person who's given the power, take it and execute it properly. So I'd love a personality like Nigel back. Kingy, I don't know. I mean, he would learn so much. He probably knows Nigel's methods inside out, to be honest, but he isn't the hard boy that Nigel is. He would definitely be the good cop. But I'm just not sure he's quite ready for it yet.
But if he got it until the end of the season, Craig, like you say, and, to be honest, he can't do any worse than the other caretakers we've had. Look, when Steve Cooper took over, he had nobody that could say to him, "Don't play him there. Don't do that with him." When Claudio took over, he had Shakespeare, God rest in peace, who could say, "Don't do that with that player. He can't do that," because there's that continuity. Does Andy King, is he that continuity candidate?
I wouldn't necessarily say so, because he's been away from the club for a long time,
But what I'm saying is he's there now. He's had a season where he knows a bit about each of the players, hopefully.
Yeah, I don't think he's been there all season, but I get what you're saying. I think, I think the two of them could work together. I'm with Kate on whether, he's hard enough. But then the other thing is, have we seen the days of the hard managers go? Because
I think so, yeah.
There's so much power for the players these days. It's whoever's running football has just made it an absolute mockery that the players have all the power these days. And if a manager tells you that you're going to get dropped, and so what? I'll take my money and I'll just sit it out. I'll be here longer than you because I'm on a long contract.
Yeah.
The only losers are the fans and the managers. In modern football, the players are hiding to nothing. They just take the money and do whatever they want to do. But
Tony says here, don't think we have the funds to remove Ruud. Can we afford not to remove him? That's what you've got to think about. I mean, yes, I know we've got the funds. We've definitely got the funds because he's just written off a £90 million loan. Whether that fits under a PSR or not, of course, is another matter. But, do you think he could be that continuity, Andy King, Kate?
Yeah, but that's all I can think of really at the moment for Andy King. He's still very much learning his craft. He's been thrust into this first team option, which was a good appointment by Ruud because we're all in the romanticising of Andy King. It's a good appointment in that sense. But realistically, it's still off the wall picking that from Ruud to not have his own setup and his own preferred option of his own preferred coaches. It's very unorthodox, and I'm not sure Andy King is quite there yet. But who knows? I mean, who knows? You know, the Brighton manager's really young.
Oh, not yet. I mean, my thought was, if he's going to be sort of the continuity manager, sorry, I probably didn't word it right. What I mean was, he takes over till the end of the season, and because I say he's somebody that the crowd will, maybe give a bit of time to, etc. The players, most of them will know him. Not to be the manager next season.
Oh, okay.
But be the number two for the manager next
like
season.
Caretaker. Yeah, I mean, even if he's not number
shaky, right, shaky.
He could do the caretaker role till the end of the season. I don't think that would. Ryan Mason seems to be the permanent caretaker manager at Tottenham, doesn't he? When the shit hits the fan, he gets pulled in every single time. I hope he gets a decent bonus. But you could argue Andy King could do that till the end of the season. But I would expect, if we are hiring the type of manager we're hiring for next season that we want, which is experienced, knows what he's about, even if he's young, you want them to come with their own setup to a point, and then integrate.
But Ranieri came with his own setup, and we had two assistant managers. We had the one that he came with, and Craig Shakespeare staying over from Nigel Pearson. And I just think that he offers that. If you've got managers coming in, they can watch all the videos they want to, but they might, he might want to play Danny Ward up front. But King would be there.
It's just my view that Andy King would still just be a first team coach. I don't think he'd be part of the management setup. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, which is what it's all about, Kate. Which is what it's all about. Talking of opinions, oh my God, hang on, where have I put my tin at?
Where's the gong? We need a gong.
Can I just say before, I did think of a few people. Obviously, Rossini, I thought of. Chris Davis has done a great job at Birmingham in his first full season. Was here, obviously, with Brendan, his right-hand man, so knows the club as well. I don't think if he takes Birmingham up, which it looks like he will, then he'll want to see that out rather than move sideways. There's someone I'll mention here who was Edin Terzic, who is out of work, who was the Borussia Dortmund manager and decided to walk away and have a rest. But there's a lot in my choice, who I know you're going to pull up in a minute.
Yeah,
a lot of the same thinking came into what I forgot his name now. What he was talking about with Pearson and Andy King.
Well, let's have a look, shall we, at who Craig wants to be. And I've got to actually
just before you do that, though. Just before you do that, when you say wants to be, right? I'm putting a name out there with a reasoning behind it. That's what I'm doing.
Putting a candidate out there.
I'm putting a candidate out for discussion, and I think it's a reasoned argument.
But you are putting it out for discussion.
Well, I am, because there's not a load. There's not a load of options, to be honest. This one came to mind. Yeah, I kind of convinced myself. Anyway.
Oh, God.
Kate sums it all up there. Kate's just gone in case anybody missed that.
I'm all in.
He's gone, oh, God. Now, I'm not saying that, I'm not saying that we shouldn't sort of, take this seriously, because, of course, we should do. He's going to put a very reasoned argument as to why we should have Gareth Southgate as our manager. Sorry, Craig, I'm being unfair. The floor is yours, sir.
Oh, he's on mute. Have you muted him?
No, I haven't muted him. Are you muted, Craig?
I don't think so.
Oh, no,
you're not now. No, you're not now.
Yeah. I'm going to read my notes and then put my argument there, and then you can rip it to bits. Okay. But what I want to say, so Gareth Southgate, and I know his club managerial record is pretty limited, to Middlesbrough, and it's not great. It's not bad, but it's not great. However, and I've put it, and it's a big but. The situation our club finds itself in at the moment, it's so much more than performances on the pitch. The club needs a reset. It needs to rediscover its identity. It needs management and the team and the players and the fans and everyone pulling in the same direction. It needs unity. And whilst I'm not a huge fan of his from a footballing viewpoint, it's hard to argue with the job that he did at England. He removed the club rivalries. He created a supportive environment where the team was everything. He talked at length. I saw him recently. He did the Richard Dimbleby lecture on the BBC recently, where he talked about his past, his experiences as a player when he missed that penalty famously for England and what it taught him and how the reaction of that was to him personally and how he used that going forward. He spoke very well about how it's about creating an environment where people feel that they can be the best versions of themselves and can all pull together. And that was the whole thing about him being an England manager. At the end of it, we can argue whether he was a success or not. He didn't win it, and that's what he was there for. But you cannot argue against the fact that he changed the culture of the England team to something that was more akin to a proper team, a club, rather than a group of individuals who just turn up, a few times a year from their clubs. I believe that he'd be respected by the players. I believe he would be a great role model for the youth and the younger players coming through and would show them a pathway through it. No way would I have considered Southgate a couple of years ago. No way at all. But the club's in a difficult position now. And I think a steadying hand and someone who can look at the culture of the club and try and put it back on a path and hopefully bring some better football and better performances. I'm not saying he is going to be the guy who's going to help us run away with the league, but I think throughout the club to get a proper reset, then I think somebody like Southgate, and I hate myself for saying it, could be the one.
You
Very
must
well
be
put.
the one. You still turn me on.
Now, you see, not only would I blame you,
that KP. I can't.
not only am I going to blame you for picking Gareth Southgate, I'm going to blame you for setting Kate off singing.
It doesn't take
And I have to say, I'm a bit worried because I thought I'd made myself a coffee. I didn't think I'd put any alcohol in this, but I actually find that you made some very good points there, Craig.
Thanks, Kate.
Sorry. No, I do, because look, you could argue whether he was a successful manager. I didn't mind him I thought he was a bloody good England manager. A couple of finals, some semis. What had we done before him? Sweet FA. Let's be honest with you, no pun intended. But yes, he would bring that kind of discipline, and like you say, we know he's got that side to him. Normally, with an England manager, though, of course, you get the job because you've come off a good club career. Mm-hmm. He didn't do that. He obviously was at Middlesbrough. His win percentage there was 29%, but he was there nearly 3 years. So it wasn't awful, but it wasn't, sort of brilliant.
Just on that, a quick one, just sorry to interrupt, but I'm not a big fan of win percentages because, to be honest, for me, it's points per game. We could have won 4 games this season and drawn every other game, and we'd be sitting very nicely in mid-table. So just doing it on win percentages, I think sometimes can be a little.
Can I just say that Wikipedia don't give me points per game?
I know.
But they do give me win percentages. You awkward bloody
man. Sack the data man.
Yeah, honestly, you're bloody awkward. You are, Craig. Honestly, it should just be you and me, Kate. But no,
you should have to put up with my singing.
All right, 150. Well, that's true. I should do it on my own, shouldn't I? 151 games in Middlesbrough manager, 45 wins. So he hasn't had that coming in as a successful club manager, but he came in because he had, reasonable success with the under-21s. But what he brought, he gave us an identity as England manager. He gave us our pride back. I honestly think he gave us our pride back, despite what everybody says. As England manager, you're not going to please everybody. He gave us our pride back. And if he could do that to us as a club, then why not? And I can't believe I'm bloody saying this, but why not? Help me out here, Kate, because I'm just losing it here totally.
I mean, it's not something I can get excited about at all. But I know exactly what Craig's saying. He did make some really good points.
Yes, he did.
I hadn't really thought about the fact that he culturally did change the England team. I think he's embraced youth. He's given people confidence in that England team. I think the football, I think we could have done better. But I know we got to finals and semi-finals, etc. But I just think there was some real opportunities missed. But having said that, at least he got there. So yeah, it could be something. He seems to be quite a good man manager, which is something we've lacked for ages. Like Brendan Gucci Belt was just not that. He just didn't live up to that. Somehow he got that reputation, and I'm not sure how. So we do need someone like that to massage egos, to coax youngsters, to be really heavily involved with the development of the C-grade players. So it could be something that would work. And do you know what? If we ended up hiring somebody like Southgate or whatever manager we hire, I'm just always 100% behind the club, because you've got to be. And if that was the case, it'd be no different. The only thing like I've had with Liam, is the same question. Would Gareth be tempted?
Yeah, I think that's a massive if, and I doubt it. But I think we're almost at a situation where we need to mentally accept that we may have a couple of seasons of mid-table championship football, but we need to get the club back together. Yeah, we need to put the band back together. We need to get our identity. We need everybody pulling in the same direction. And that's the only reason why I thought Southgate may be the candidate to do that.
And he may fancy something a little bit out the limelight, because that England job is really stressful. It's a poison chalice as well. And it's a hard job. National level sport is a hard job. Like the Aussie rugby manager, what was his name? The Australian guy. He was saying he got so much abuse on the street. Like, it's a really horrible, hard job. So it might be something, if he's keen on still being involved in that level of football, the manager player relationship, and he doesn't want to go into more formal settings, then he might be tempted to be out the spotlight.
That's the thing. And I know you don't like this, Craig, but he has got a win percentage as England senior manager of just short of 60%. He won the Tournoi de France in 1997. Wow, who remembers that?
I do. Alan Shearer. Remember Alan Shearer lifting that trophy? I had it on my wall.
Well, of course, you'd have Alan Shearer on your wall, wouldn't you? Why we couldn't get
really
that.
Nice moment. It was like
2016 as well. Sorry. Runner-up in the UEFA Euros 2020 and 2024. Nation League third place, 18-19 penalty win. I mean, that was the thing. He got us winning penalties, shootouts. I mean, good God. So he's got us to finals. And let's be honest with you. If you get to finals, you want to win them. But if you don't, you sooner get to a final than not get to a final.
And say he did speak, and it's probably still on iPlay, but he did speak very well during that lecture, and he's clearly a thoughtful manager. That thinks beyond. Pardon?
He's good with the press.
Yeah, and I think he's he thinks about more than just what goes on the pitch. He thinks about the welfare of the players, and I think that's why he could be somebody who could sort of bring those people back together and at least get everybody pulling in the same direction. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of his football, and England, I think we could have done better with that group of players, but you can't argue with the fact that he created a good team environment for them to try and be better than they had been. And I think that's probably where the club is at the minute.
Yeah. I've just sent a message in the private chat, by the way. Hey, Ronald says we can't afford a couple of seasons to rebuild. When the parachute payments run out, we'll be stuck in the championship for ages. Give you a chance to just answer that, Kate, while you're still here.
Yeah, I mean, it's an age-old thing that we keep talking about. Leicester City do not have an affordability issue. We have a PSR issue. It's completely different. We're not going to run out of money unless Top pulls his money out. So yeah, I know what you're saying. The parachute payments can stop, and there's a chance that will change things again from a PSR perspective. But I think it's not about whether whether we can afford a couple of seasons to rebuild. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. We're going to get relegated, and we have to make sure, if we go up again, or in the next couple of seasons, if we're trying to push and get back up again, we have to make sure it's a thorough job from top to bottom. We can't just wing it like we have done this year, quite frankly. We've winged it. We got promoted. We had an amazing season because we hired a gem of a manager, and we had some really good signings that season with people like Winks. It's not going to happen every season. So we have to make sure that we go back to the drawing board, and that may take a season or two.
It may. Now, I've just... Ant, unfortunately, has been in a bit of an accident, which is why he's late coming in.
Hope he's okay.
Yeah, he's just shown me a picture of the car, which isn't brilliant. I'm presuming, and I don't want to presume, but I presume that that's his partner's car. So he's with her. So all the best, Ant. Obviously, we're not going to see him, and that's understandable. So I'm going to try and do his sort of speech as to who I mean, you guys know who he's probably going to go for. Do you need to go now, Kate?
Yeah, next few minutes. I'll hang on and I'll hear your spiel.
Well, just bear with me because I haven't got a good spiel because I wasn't prepared for this. I was just going to give him my vote and say you won it.
That's not an excuse.
No, it's not. You have to be prepared for anything.
You should be the understudy for us all.
Really? Should I?
But I mean, just that picture.
Doesn't he look good? Doesn't he look good in Leicester?
His glasses off, Craig can't see it.
I mean, this guy looks good in Leicester blue. I'm not going to deny it, and so did Liam. But I think Sean kind of suits a bit of Leicester blue. That might be his Everton top.
He literally looks like a fan there.
He does. He does.
He looks like that. He reminds me a bit of Gareth Taylor.
In front of me.
Everybody's dad at Sunday football.
He looks like the guy who organises the banner to go up. You wouldn't be surprised if he's the guy. He's probably the guy who's put who's tried to get the money for the plane. That's what he looks like. He's the ringleader.
Look, 8 Locks, if you want to come on and say who you want, Ant can't make it because he's been in an accident, so you'd be more than welcome to come on, Locks. I called him Blue then. Very Antipodean. But
come on then,
look,
Chris, let's hear your spiel.
I can see why Ant is going for Sean. I think the next appointment, look, we all know it's got to be spot on, but the next appointment for me isn't going to be the manager that's going to win us anything. He's going to be the manager that, like you both said, takes us back to nuts and bolts, the Band of Brothers, gets us defending. It might not be pretty football, but was it really pretty football under Enzo? I can remember people keep coming in the chat going, "Oh, it's boring football, it's horrible, this." And I'm saying, we're 17 bloody points clear. What do you want? If you win, it's 1-0.
The only issue with Sean Dyche is that he parks the bus. We've not even got a driver of the bus. We can't park anything defensively. We genuinely can't.
Is there anybody? Look, I know, he was sacked by Everton. And I'm not going to quote win percentages. Craig, you okay? He was sacked by Everton. Boys has gone in and obviously turned it all around there. But when I say short-term appointment, I'm probably thinking 3 years. And that is to either consolidate us in the Championship, then get us up, and then keep us up. And then after that, you look at the next manager as being the one that will take us on the next journey, which is probably going to be mid-table.
If he keeps us up, why is he getting sacked?
Because he's not going to be the manager that I think will win us lots and lots of trophies. he's not going to necessarily qualify for Europe. But that's not going to happen for a long time. If fans think that whoever we get next is going to get us promoted back at the first time of asking, and they're going to get us back up into like 5th in Europa League again the following season, we know that is not going to happen. So I think you've got to be looking at the next manager, and then, like you say, maybe an Andy King as number 2, or certainly as part of the coaching staff, and then moving on now, whether that's with Kingy or somebody else coming in. You know what I mean? It's like what we talked about with Eddie Howe at Newcastle. You know, when he first went to Newcastle, a lot of us were saying, yeah, he's a stopgap. You know, they've got rid of Steve Bruce, although, I'll be honest with you, I'd have bloody Steve Bruce at the moment instead of Ruud van Nistelrooy. That's saying something. I know, exactly. Yeah, but that's how bad it is. He's like that. I'll have to do a game with Daddy Chips, Steve Bruce or Ruud van Nistelrooy. But we've also got to think it might be a bit of a Steve Cooper appointment, because are there going to be many managers that want to come to us if we go down and get that points deduction and get a management plan? I'm not saying we will, but if we do, and there's a chance that could happen, a transfer embargo, he would come in and he would sort out, like you said, in a different way maybe, but he would sort out the attitude from the players at the club. And I think he would consolidate us. That's what I think Sean Dyche would do. He's got Burnley up twice, promoted them twice. He did keep them up. He got them into Europe. Did he not get them into Europe? I think they got into Europe one season, Burnley. Not in there very long, but I think he got them in. But then, like I say, it would then be time to look at the next step. That's why I think Sean Dyche. Thank you. Good night. All the best.
You almost delivered that as if you believed it as well.
I know.
I do. If he was appointed.
Performance, that, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you. Because I wouldn't mind if we did appoint Sean Dyche. Look, if you're asking me, would Sean Dyche be the man to take over from Brendan Rodgers? No. But we're in different circumstances.
Chris, you've heard all 3 arguments now. Would you like to rank the 3?
Oh, I'll rank the 3. It's a little bit unfair because I was kind of agreeing with...
Don't give me that. We don't need the ad-lib. Come on.
with Ant. Look, we've all put a good argument through for all 3 of them, to be honest with you. Yeah.
He's got a random generator going on the screen.
One of those spinny wheel things about what normally used to what takeaway you want at night.
Look, okay. In 3rd place, I would have to probably go for Gareth Southgate. You put up a very, very good argument, Craig. And like I say,
Craig, don't worry, you still made the podium.
Thanks.
Yeah, there was only 3 in it. You're about to make the podium.
To lose out to Dyche, I mean,
it's like in a 3-horse race.
This is your lowest moment as a Leicester
It is.
fan.
It is. I've got to consider my future after this, I think.
You came to us with Gareth Southgate. What did you expect?
I thought I made a very reasoned argument that you put behind Sean Dyche.
I saw a lot of what you said. I agreed with, and you made a lot of good points, and you made me think at the end of what you said that if it was Gareth Southgate or Southgate,
he'd probably do better, to be fair.
Yeah, if you did go with him, if the club did go with him, after what you've said, I wouldn't be overly upset. In 2nd place, oh, sorry, Kate. In 2nd place, I'm going to put Sean Dyche. Because I think over Gareth Southgate, it's just he's got that club experience. He's got teams out of the Championship twice. Like I say, he's not going to have us playing nice football. I don't fucking care if we don't play nice football. Boot it upfield. Play like Wimbledon. As long as we win, as long as we get promoted and as long as we stay up, I do not care what style of football. Look at West Ham. They didn't want, what's he called? David Moyes, because they didn't like his style. What happened when they got rid of him? So for that, Sean Dyche for me. However, it's not just because it's Kate, sorry, Kate, but I have got to agree with Kate. Liam Rosenior out the three, because I tell you the difference between Liam Rosenior and Sean Dyche is, I said Sean Dyche was the guy that could take us up, keep us up, and then we move on to somebody else. I think Liam Rosenior could be, stabilise us, take us up, and then move us on. So I don't think we would need to say, if we give him a 3-year contract, the end of that 3 years, I think he would still be the guy to take us forward, where longer, say with us longer than Sean. So
the only thing Gareth about Liam is that out of the three, Liam is the least realistic, I think. Just because of what he's doing at Strasbourg at the minute.
I think if he gets them into Europe, and particularly if he gets that third Champions League spot, I think it'd be very hard for him to walk away.
And if we're going on likelihood, well, Sean Dyche all day and all night, isn't it?
Yeah, that is likely. If you can get Gareth Southgate back into club management, if he wants that, I think
he will have been out for a year. By the time the season's over, he's been out of football for a year.
Sean Dyche just still weirds me out in that shirt, though. He definitely sits 3 rows in front of me at the match, every match.
Who weirds you out more in the shirt?
Gareth Southgate looks like he's about to play golf.
No, I can't choose the shirt.
Probably live golf.
Yeah.
I can't choose the shirt. This is what
Where's my boy gone?
Sorry?
Where's my boy gone?
Oh, hang on. I'm going to go back to that. Oops. There you go. Same shirt. Oh, no, different shirt. It's the round collar. But he looks good in it. I mean, anybody looks good in Leicester blue, don't they? But no, out the three. Now, Lots has gone. Danny Roll or Richie Wellens?
I looked at Richie Wellens earlier, to be honest. I think he's a little bit up and down. And Danny Roll, again, he's done well there. There was talk today that Klopp was lining him up to go to Leipzig.
Oh.
Indeed. Okay, let me throw another one at you. I mean, Paul said Matt Sadler of Walsall. Maybe if I had my own choice, which I wasn't going to do originally because we were going to sort of be neutral, Mark Robbins.
Yeah.
I think what he did. That was a very enthusiastic, from both of you. I just think what he did at Coventry on hardly any money, how he kept that club going when it was going through administration and they didn't have their own ground, reminding me a little bit of Mickey Adams and everything that he went through when he was here. We went out of business. Let's be honest with you, he was within a foot of getting a cup final place for Coventry. And that probably was what stopped them getting into the sort of doing well in the playoffs. I just think, again, but I just worry with him whether he would be a long-term manager or a bit like the Sean Dyche stopgap manager.
It's a little bit sad, isn't it? Really, at the level of managers that we're now discussing, as to where we were a couple of years ago when we were talking about luring, the guy from Atalanta and, all this kind of thing. And now we're talking about people who, will do a steadying job.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's where we are as a club. But I think some fans forget that and they still think we are up there, if you like,
As Kate said, this is still a very attractive proposition. This is a club with great foundations, one of the best training facilities in Europe, not just in this country. There's a lot to be going for this club.
I'll end on this one because I don't want to give, Kate too much praise, although I shall get very big-headed. Yeah. But the thing with Liam, if Gareth came, because I think whoever comes in, we need to be looking at it as a long-term project. And maybe we did with Ruud, but he's just proved with his however many games in charge that he's not the man for the job. But if Liam comes in and he does all right to stay, would he be lured to a bigger club? I don't necessarily think so. If he comes in and says, this is what I can do long term, he probably would, unless he like I say, crashed and burned, he'd probably be there. Would Gareth stay with us? If he came and did a good job and got us promoted, are we looking at Enzo Mark II?
I think you have to be realistic in the size of the club that we are. If someone is successful at Leicester, there will be a lot of eyes wanting to take them to a bigger club. I think that's just the nature of it.
We've got to be wiser and not always see it as a long-term project, because does that even exist anymore?
You just have to have a line of managers that you think, the next one's going to be.
Okay, but let me say this then. If we'd have got Steve Cooper instead of Enzo, and Steve Cooper had got us promoted, which, let's be honest with you, with that team that we had last season, anybody should really have got us promoted. Would Chelsea have come in for Steve Cooper?
No.
Exactly. And that's the thing between Gareth and Liam. Gareth is more likely, if he does success with us, people are going to look, that's an ex-England manager. Arsenal, one of the big clubs could start sort of fishing in our pond. Well, you might have that bit more loyalty with Liam. Anyway.
Loyalty, but anyway, I don't think it's about loyalty.
No, don't get me wrong. If a big club came in,
Liam's now got a very reputable CV. If he finishes in the Champions League spaces with Strasbourg, that's a very attractive, sexy proposition for any of the top six, should they choose to get rid of their manager.
Possibly, but I still think he would be.
I think loyalty is. You're not going to get many Nigel Pearsons.
No, you're not, and I accept that.
I just think naive the thing that we do, and not think that it's a long-term project, because long-term, as we've demonstrated earlier in the thing, is a 16-month average tenure for a Leicester manager.
Maybe they should be given longer. And look, let's just say that he did rather well at PSV, did Ruud. And, that doesn't make them a good manager in the UK because they're a good manager abroad. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Look, thank you very much, guys, because, again, we could go on forever, and I know Kate's has got to go. Thank you very much. We've decided Kate's the winner. Liam. We'll get our own back, Craig. Just next time.
To be honest, I donated Liam.
He did.
So I'll take some.
It was
credit.
a gift with reservation. That's what it was there. That Craig gave that to me.
You're the man that just keeps on giving, Craig.
That's me. What can I say?
Please get rid of those condom slides because they're weird.
I have actually got rid of them. Actually,
good in the bin.
I can go back to there we go. There we go. Nice. I think the condom on its own looked a lot worse. And that was only, you can blame Ant for that, because my next slide up was his slide and he wasn't here to do. Oh, anyway.
I'm quite intrigued to see what you'd put Dyche's face on if Ant was here.
Well, if it was Liam's face, all I'm going to say is Kate likes a young manager. On that note.
On that bombshell.
Adios, guys.
Thanks very much. Take care. Oh, I'll message you, Kate, about what we were talking about.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
And can I just say before you go, hopefully look out for me over the next couple of weeks in the Observer. I know
the Observatory.
Going up in the world now. Yes.
The Observatory's closed, Craig. It's gone. Maybe that's why he's going to be there. What are you being in the Observer for? That sounds a bit posh.
Basically, they're doing the BBC. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But it's just not a paper.
I thought they were bringing back the Lonely Hearts column.
They don't work. I've tried that in the Metro. It doesn't work. Well, we're back at 7 on Thursday with the prediction show, everybody. Thanks so much, guys. Have a good night. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Cheers.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered
by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.